At about 1:30 a.m., Tamara Patty, age 43, arrived back at a residence in Greater Manchester, United Kingdom. She resided there with her 2 kids. Tamara arrived at her home with a coworker. Tamara suggested they could sleep there for a few hours, so her coworker joined her. After returning from a night care visit, they immediately fell asleep when they came home. While Tamara's coworker slept on the first floor, she went to her bedroom on the second floor. At the time, one of her kids was fast sleeping in the next bedroom. A few hours later, Tamara's coworker made a phone call to the authorities and reported that Tamara had been assaulted and required medical assistance.
Todd-Town family, what's the biz? Y'all already know what it is. Sending in positive vibes and energy to my Todd-Town family. Y'all know how I rock. If you haven't already, please hit that like, share, subscribe, and notification button so you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest content. You don't want to miss. Tune in. Anywho, without further ado, welcome to Todd-Town.
Tamara Patty, a successful, beautiful single mother of 2 little girls, appeared to be enjoying life. She had a successful career in business and enjoyed traveling and hanging out with her friends. She recently split from her husband of 14 years, but stayed in close contact with her ex for the sake of the family. No one would truly know what Tamara was going through behind closed doors. This story takes us to Manchester, United Kingdom. At about 1:30 a.m., Tamara Patty, age 43, arrived back at a residence in Greater Manchester, United Kingdom. She resided there with her 2 kids. Tamara arrived at her home with a coworker. Tamara suggested they could sleep there for a few hours, so her coworker joined her. After returning from a night care visit, they immediately fell asleep when they came home. While Tamara's coworker slept on the first floor, she went to her bedroom on the second floor. At the time, one of her kids was fast sleeping in the next bedroom. A few hours later, Tamara's coworker made a phone call to the authorities and reported that Tamara had been assaulted and required medical assistance. The coworker was aware of who assaulted Tamara and provided the police with information indicating that it was her husband who was responsible. At 3:30 in the morning, cries could be heard coming from the upper level, and shortly after that, Tamara's husband was spotted sprinting out the front door. Tamara's husband, Aubrey Patty, who is 41 years old, phoned the police and confessed that he had assaulted his wife, but he told them that she deserved it. Aubrey Patty called the police. When the police came, he had already left the scene, so they didn't find him at the residence.
Crazy.
After arriving at the residence, the officers discovered that Tamara required immediate medical assistance. She had incurred major injuries and was promptly brought to the hospital. However, Tamara's injuries were too serious, and by the time she got at the hospital, she had already been declared dead. She had been brutally beaten and stabbed many times. According to the findings of the investigation conducted by police, Tamara had lived in the residence since February of 2021, which was the same month she ended a relationship with her husband Aubrey. When Tamara first met Aubrey, she was living in Kailicha, which is located in Cape Town, South Africa. Aubrey was also from South Africa. He was an employee of the South African Navy and was originally from Pretoria. They decided to establish a family and look for better job possibilities when they relocated to the United Kingdom in 2004. Tamara yearned for further academic options, so after moving to the United Kingdom, she dove herself into her studies and put in a lot of effort to get a master's degree in law. She had a responsibility to provide for her family. Tamara and Aubrey had been married for a total of 14 years and had 2 kids at the time that they decided to end their marriage. In spite of the fact that a divorce was almost certain to occur, the couple continued their friendship for the sake of their 2 daughters, Tia, who was 15 years old, and Mia, who was 10 years old. Additionally, the couple started a business together, Greenleaf Health and Social Care Limited, which is a care provision company for adults. When the police arrived, their first order of business was to investigate the circumstances behind Aubrey's violent assault on Tamara in the early hours of that morning. They also needed to figure out why Aubrey was ever at Tamara's home in the first place. Tamara's coworker was interviewed by the police. The co-worker told the police that the screaming caused them to wake up and that they spotted Aubrey getting ready to flee through the front door. When Aubrey heard Tamara scream once more, just before he left, he ran back upstairs to stab Tamara several more times, before hurrying back downstairs and fleeing out the front door. The knife that had been used to stab Tamara was discovered hidden behind a vehicle that was parked nearby the property. When the owner moved the vehicle, in order to drive it to work, that's when they saw it. A few days after Tamara's passing, Aubrey was taken into custody and charged with the murder of his wife. He entered a guilty plea. The court heard testimony on the sequence of events that led up to Tamara's death. In spite of appearances, notably that Tamara and Aubrey were getting along following their separation, it was clear from Aubrey's behavior leading up to the morning of the deadly assault that this was not the case. Aubrey was in Tamara's vehicle the day before she was killed, and he requested Tamara give him her phone. This happened only one day before she was killed. He hit her in the face after she would not give him permission to take her phone. Later on the same evening, he sent her a series of text messages. Some of them were texts apologizing to Tamara, while others were messages threatening her. In one of the text messages he said, "This is the last time you had disrespected me." Tamara was really apprehensive about Aubrey going through the contents of her phone. Even though they were no longer together, he continued to exert control over her, and 2 weeks before she passed away, she found out that he was secretly listening to her phone voicemails. Tamara shared with her friends that she found his behavior strange and that it was the primary factor in her decision to distance herself from him. However, Tamara was also cautious and secretive, and she did not disclose to anybody the specifics of what she may have been forced to go through in her life. The prosecution presented evidence to the court indicating that Tamara's murder was premeditated and carried out with precision. On July 7th, while Tamara was at work, Aubrey gained entrance to Tamara's house by forcing his way in. Once inside, he hid himself so that Tamara wouldn't see him when she returned home from work. This was done without Tamara's knowledge or permission. The court was told that he hid in the bushes and waited for her to come home. He decided to use his phone to set an alarm for himself so that he could get a few hours of sleep while he waited for her to return. The prosecutor told the court that the fact that Aubrey carried a lot of supplies with him to Tamara's residence was further proof that the assault was a premeditated murder. He came prepared with a hammer, several knives, a pair of gloves, a metal exercise bar, and some cord. It was said in court that Aubrey's alarm went off at 3:30 in the morning. When he finally did assault Tamara, he made sure she was in bed and fast asleep before he did so. Tamara was subjected to a vicious beating at the hands of Aubrey, who used a metal exercise bar. Tamara engaged in a counterattack, which resulted in her receiving a number of wounds to her body. After the violent beating, he assumed she had passed away at that moment, so he hurried downstairs. However, just as he was about to open the front door, he heard a disturbance and then her scream, so he turned around and raced back upstairs. He used one of the knives he had carried with him to stab her a total of 8 additional times. After leaving the home, Aubrey called the police. He admitted his guilt and said that he intended to take his own life. He informed the dispatcher the following: "I am sorry for what I have done, but she deserved it." In the courtroom, Aubrey sobbed as he was being handed his punishment. The presiding judge in the case, Elizabeth Nichols, said as follows: "In that moment the defendant effectively deprived their children of both parents, one through death, the other by the annihilation of trust in their father, who up until that moment they believed they knew and loved. You waited in the house for your wife to return from a late-night care visit, knowing that your daughter slept in the adjoining bedroom. So clear and considered were your intentions, you even set your phone alarm giving yourself a chance to sleep and ensuring that your wife would be asleep before you attacked her. Some suggest that you must have suffered a breakdown, however no medical evidence, nor any evidence has been presented to suggest that mental health issues had any part to play in this offense. You may have been stressed and distressed by your work and or divorce, but neither explain the brutality displayed. Like so much violence against women, you tried to place the blame upon the victim, suggesting that she had wronged you and that you were driven to this conduct, even going so far as to say she deserved it. And what type of parental love is it that lies alongside your child while waiting to murder her mother? There are no excuses and no fault lies with the victim Tamara. This offense is entirely your responsibility. No woman should have to endure at the hands of a man what Tamara did in her final hours. The court heard testimony from Aubrey's acquaintances who characterized him as having a kind and compassionate demeanor and as a devoted parent. His defense team informed the judge that Aubrey did not have any prior convictions and that he had entered a guilty plea at the first available opportunity. They asked the judge to take this into consideration while determining the appropriate punishment for Aubrey. The judge sentenced Aubrey to a mandatory 23 years in prison. Aubrey Patty never gave a reason why he did what he did, but there is no excuse for what he did to Tamara.
Crazy.
Tamara was lovely, bubbly, and an outgoing professional woman as described by those close to her, and she was an amazing mother to her 2 little girls. She didn't deserve what happened to her. She should have been allowed to move on with her life and be happy. My condolences to her friends and family, especially her 2 little girls.
Man, that's crazy on foe. First of all, man, the 23-year verdict, I know that's tough, man. I know that's tough for the family. They definitely took his history, non-criminal or non-violent, and, you know, everything below or above that in consideration to come down with 23 years. That should have been a life sentence or hell, even a death penalty. You have to see how premeditated that was. I mean, he staked out, set an alarm. You did that while the kids was home. I think that should have been enough to deem that, you know, life or hell, even the death penalty, man. 23 years, damn, that's crazy. You know, I just can't seem to understand, man, why these goofies just can't just leave, man. I'm trying to tell you, there's plenty people in the world. You ain't gotta be stuck on one person, man. These stories with these goofies just losing their mind behind these women. Listen, I get it. I know how love is. I do. I ain't gonna sit up here and act like that shit ain't strong. I ain't gonna sit up here and act like, you know, the emotion ties ain't. I get it. But at the end of the day, you gotta be the bigger person. You gotta be the bigger man. You gotta understand. You know, that person, that's not the only person here in this life. And not only that, for you to feel so entitled to somebody's life that you can justify taking it, that's crazy. He felt so entitled to her that he said that she deserved what she, like, yo, you gotta understand mentally where that comes from, man. She was very beautiful. Let's start there. RP to her too. You know, sorry, my condolences. RP to the young lady. It was no way he wanted her to move on, and that's what it really boils down to. These tender, you know what I'm saying? Like, they tender. I say it all the time. If you got just as much as confidence, you could tell she carried herself, strong woman, educated, somewhat of what I am on the opposite side, right, of the sex. And when you have that much confidence, that stuff going for yourself, I swear you would never let nobody get you like that. That's why I try to preach that to everybody. You know, you get your shit together the same way or the same as the person you're talking to, you're meeting. That way y'all, because at the end of the day, you know, she seemed like she definitely had all going for herself. Seemed like jealousy for sure. He was not gonna allow that lady to move on with her life. Hence the reason he trying to check her phone. That's control. Let me see who you talking to. Who you chatting with? What's going on? What nigga you would want? Man, I ain't never, boy, that's goofy. Stop, man. Stop it. That's weakness. That's some weak ass shit. You know what I'm saying? I repeat to her, it's unfortunate, man. Hey, man, you will reap what you sow, man. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Peace. Yeah. Whoa.